Bonjour.
How are you?
Good. Great to see you. Thanks for being there.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay. I have found a way to create revenue.
Which is good news, right?
That's what it's all about. I don't know why I didn't think of it earlier.
It takes time, my friend, but what matters is that you finally found a way.
So I wanted to say that I've been following your exploits around, and I can see anywhere is a hot ticket.
Is a tiring ticket.
Yeah, I bet. It's nonstop.
It's
And
really nonstop, yeah. You know,
so
people say, oh, you sold your company. It must be easier. Say, oh my goodness, I've never worked that much.
so are you an evangelist?
Kind of. Kind of, yeah. Sometimes, yeah, I'm kind of evangelist.
All right, so this is for the audience out there. This is Pierre Geronimo, and coming to us from Geneva, right?
Correct. Yes, right now in Geneva, I think there must be a 30 degrees difference between where you are and the temperature over here.
Yeah, here. Hello, Michael.
Hey, how are you? Good to see
Good. You know Pierre?
Hi, Michael. Yeah,
Geronimo?
we've met. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Ago, yeah.
That's great. Welcome. We'll be joined by a few others. We are live right now. Michael, you are in England, right?
Yes, I'm in London.
Yeah, in Hammersmith?
No, I'm in central London. Just got back from Thailand, and yeah, lots going on. We're moving our primary listing to America next year, so that's a big deal for us.
Yeah. Now, why are you doing that?
Well, liquidity. The U.S. capital markets are obviously probably 10 times bigger than the UK, and FanDuel in America is a really crucial asset of our business that's growing exponentially. So we want to feed and fuel the profitability of that asset.
So on FanDuel, now that is a betting mechanism?
Yeah, it's a sports betting iGaming product affiliated with the NFL and the NBA and the NHL. The Super Bowl, for example, I think we did 32 million in bets that we paid out. So it's in open in 26 of 50 states right now. So it's pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so that means you are going to be relocating also?
I suspect or surmise at some point my bosses may tap me on the shoulder. So we'll see if I do want to go back or not. That's a different question. Whether I do want to go back is a different question.
Yeah, right. So, but you can always do something virtual.
Exactly.
So Pierre has sold his relocation company to a group called Anywhere, Work from Anywhere. And
yeah.
taking the idea of talent mobility, global talent is everywhere, and then applying it whether it's virtual or in person. Is that correct, Pierre?
It's totally correct. It's the idea is to kind of bridge a gap between recruitment and mobility, and the needs of companies to recruit talents wherever they are in the world, and to adapt to the new forms of employment. Because a lot of people, they want to work as a freelance, as a consultant. They want to work. I mean, we're dealing with companies. We recruit talents wherever they're based. So it also means that we need to deploy EOR solutions to for example, companies that do not have any office in Spain or in Thailand, but they have spotted the best talent there, and they need to hire them and to employ them to be compliant. So that's where we are, offering our solutions.
So you're a PEO with an WFA twist, if I hear correctly. Okay, that's cool. And the team, right? You have some team in Switzerland, is it? Or
yeah, correct. I'm based in Switzerland. We have around 30 people in Switzerland. Yeah, and it's growing. I mean, we've doubled our size just in January. So we're recruiting because we are developing the executive search division, and we are, because it's Switzerland, and we are growing fast into the private banking business. So we work for some of the leading Swiss private banks, and we accompany them, when they recruit their CEO for Spain or Dubai or Singapore or Hong Kong, and a lot of things are moving quite rapidly in these areas.
So that means you're part of the takeover of Credit Suisse?
We are not part of the takeover, but we are very much involved because it's creating fantastic opportunities, because I think the private banking market is being to be not completely, but really impacted by what is happening with Credit Suisse, which means a lot of our clients, they want to recruit the best talents at Credit Suisse. Because have you heard, the Federal Council of Switzerland said that there is no way the bankers at Credit Suisse are going to receive any bonus scheme for 2022.
Good.
Which creates some disappointment, and which creates opportunities for them to move to other banks and have other opportunities. So for us, it's a major opportunity to move complete teams from Credit Suisse and other banks to our clients.
So I want to introduce Alexander. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I'm a little bit late, but I had some difficulties getting into the session.
I did too. I got an invalid thing too, but but on that thing, I found that you could click more than one place, and so I kept clicking around just like you did apparently, and then I don't know. I've used Zoom 642 times, and I've never had the problem all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So Alexander's in Berlin. Michael Piker is in London, and Pierre is in Geneva right now. So Alexander, your company, you started this company a long time ago, Visum, and that's immigration, right?
That's correct. Just a quick update on what we are doing. Actually, we started our company in 2011. So now we are 12 years in place. So we are no longer being called a startup company. So I think we already established our business. We started with visa for companies. Then we continued doing legalization of documents. And then at the end, we are also now completed our service portfolio with immigration and relocation. So this is the business what we are in, helping companies in this space. And so far, I would say we are doing quite well. We have, in the meantime, we have over 100 people. It's not a big Credit Suisse, but we are already having 100 people. And that my goal and my aim is to have 7,000 people at the end of my journey with Visum Point, because this was the power of I have had when I worked for Siemens. I had about 7,000 people reporting into me at that time, and now I would like to develop a company with the same size at the end of the day, and this is the goal what I'm going for.
Well, you certainly have grand dreams, and I wish you well. Excuse me, Pierre, go ahead.
No, I kind of, my sense of humor had. I was wondering whether Alexander knew the 7 direct report by their first name.
Yes, I know them. I think I know almost everybody by the first name, by the way.
Wow, I'm impressed. And we really need to have a conversation, Alexander, because Germany is a growing business for all. And we have a lot of clients within anywhere who have we need recruitment, we need visa, we need immigration. So I think we need to have an off-record conversation, because we need your help in Germany.
I would love to support you in this case. We are a family business, and I would like to carry the spirit. When you are sitting in Geneva, was one place where I'd been almost every other week, because I used to work for Hewlett Packard. For 20 years, and HP is just around. The European headquarters is still based in Geneva, and at the end I was the CIO of HP Germany when I left the company. So I still have lots of very nice friends in HP. And so I'm really looking back, the times with HP, because this is the spirit what I would like to bring into my company too. Because with Bill and Dave, Hewlett and Packard, they created this kind of values in the company, a company value, and this is something what I would like to carry on. I would like to bring their spirit into my company.
Isn't that interesting?
I've never been to Berlin, Alexander, and
Yeah,
we need to
yeah.
find a reason for me to visit you over there.
I want to produce one of my live conferences in Berlin, and I'll need a host sponsor, but we'll talk about that later.
That's a done deal.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So Michael Piker, in his vast past, worked in Lausanne, Switzerland, at PMI.
And Basel and Syngenta. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the relocation and talent mobility and where it is right now. The idea of mobility changing or morphing into something new is not a new idea. Those of us who've been around a long time are already in a position of thinking about talent mobility as a value proposition for everybody involved, primarily if the assignee is acquiring new skills, they're going to want to apply those new learnings to a new position following the current. So, Michael, you have talked about this ad like forever about total rewards, total value of the assignment means it's like the well-being thing is a trendy phrase today. That's why I'm using it, but it's all about me as the assignee, as your employee. What's my value? What do I get out of it? I'm going to learn new skills. I'm going to build a life. I'm going to build my bank account. I'm going to build a sense of security. And I want to be able to use these new skills into a next position. That's a total reward for the company, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah. Skill arbitrage, it should be two-way, right? So you give and you get. Obviously, you know what you give to the employer, but what they should get theoretically and philosophically is a skill uplift. So specifically about, concrete commercial acumen that you can put on your CV that can demonstrate your globality mindset, which makes you more commercially viable as an employee in the labor market. So, there's very extrinsic things that you could talk about, from cultural acuity to linguistic ability to commercial exposure. Those are sometimes unquantifiable, but yet they're very relevant. We've been trying to seek the paradox of talent mobility ROI, I think, for 40 years. Nobody's cracked that nut. I've worked, I guess, in 7 public companies with massive expat programs. And on the supplier side, and I don't think anybody's sufficiently readily answered that simple question is, what is the ROI? But if, I've lived in 9 countries, I have learned so much, humbly speaking, by doing what I'm doing. And that's permitted me to acquire a skill, talent mobility, to then get another gig. I just came from Switzerland with Philip Morris, and now I'm at Flutter here in London. And, undoubtedly some headhunter will call me again and maybe ask me to go back to China, for example. So those tangible things I think I'm trying to say is that you can demonstrably show that you're linguistically flexible, culturally astute. You can drop in somewhere quickly and immerse yourself and add value. That is the dream of any employer when they deploy somebody into a new talent mobility role.
Interesting. So total rewards, Michael, to you, total rewards.
It's a facet of the composition rewards. So I did a session with Peter Newhouse, who's very well known with Benevo yesterday. We did a case study on how talent mobility links to total reward, which was pretty cool. But basically, it is, I've always said this, it requires an extortionate amount of my time because it's usually one of my 10 direct reports, but it's the highest cost per FTE, more than even my CEO. Because if you add in all the buildup costs, you know this. So, but the complexity of mobility is probably the most, even more than sales comp or exec comp or benefits. And most reward people who have my job don't really get mobility because they've never been an expat. They've never lived overseas. They don't speak another language. In tax equalization, totalization agreements, they have no clue about that. But I've had to live that. And then being an American, I have to pay tax wherever I go in the world. So I have to really know it well personally to be compliant. Most people who have my gig have never been an expat, surprisingly and shockingly.
It's amazing with that responsibility without having the direct experience, which goes to the reason why mobility is still regarded in big companies, still regarded as down the hall.
Yeah, the secret box,
Susie or somebody.
Secret password, you go in, oh, those are the expats. You don't quite know who they are, but they're prima donnas and they're really expensive. And they get all these exotic things that nobody else gets. And then you have to explain it to the rest of the troops that what's an international pension plan? Oh, they get health care. What's a tax equalization? They have no clue. So, and then the heads of reward that do my gig, they're really obsessed about exec comp. They love to talk about CEO pay and board pay and Remco, but they don't spend enough time on expats that frankly are much more complex. So I know I'm ranting, but that's the reality of what
you're on live TV here, remember.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about duty of care, but in my view, I'm just a journalist, so I mix words to create a thing, So I call it duty to care. So Pierre, what do you think? Do you apply duty to care when you find talent here and then you move it over there?
I mean, it's part of the DNA of the company is that we're talent centric, meaning that we focus on the talents, and we don't manage mandates, we don't manage relocation mandates or executive search mandates, and we change lives. And when we have when we are onboarding a new company, what is important for us is to make it like a win-win deal with our clients, and we request them to treat the talent we're presenting to them in the most proper way. And I think it's key because there's been a switch over the past years, and it's becoming more and more important that the one who decides, it's not the employer, it's the talents. Basically, now the talent, they pick up the company they want to work for, and they also want to pick up the form of employment they want. And the duty to care is more than necessary. And it's also, when a talent is joining a company, they have a lot of questions about, we spoke in previous, meetings we had and shows that they want to see what's the purpose. They want to see what is the core social responsibilities of the employer. And I think last time I mentioned that, and we had a meeting in Geneva with a lot of HR people, and we were sharing experience, and they said, today a young graduate is asking you, yeah, it's great that you're planting trees in Amazonia, it's fantastic, it's a great start, but what do you do locally? What role do you play in your community to make an impact? And that's interesting.
Alexander, you have so much experience going back to HP and Siemens, and now focusing in on immigration, and this is all technical, hands-on stuff to make sure a person is in compliance, I guess is the simple word.
Yeah, that's right. One thing what is coming to my mind, when I also hear the comments of the colleagues, getting people on board is a big challenge already, but keeping talents on board, this is the most difficult thing in life to keep these talents. You mentioned, Michael, you said, if I have all these nice skill sets by going around in the world, then I maybe get another call from an headhunter, and then I'm hopping to a new assignment. This is something which is really, really difficult for me as an employer. How can I keep these talents on board, and how can I keep them happy? And what can I do in also make sure that they have a career path in my company? And this makes it very, very difficult. And also in my past life, when we had walk-in and takeovers, when we had mergers with HP, for instance, we had mergers, Compaq and HP, and how can we get the integration and keeping all these talents in the right way, helping the company to grow. And this is something which is one of the biggest challenges for managers, I would say, and for employers, to keep people happy and make sure that they are also feel part of the company and that they can help to grow the company. This is how I see that on the other side of the house.
Thank you. Michael, total value of an assignment from the corporate perspective, from the employee, the value, and from somebody else's view. I don't know. How do you measure the total value? What do you think of that? The total value of talent assignment?
Yeah, so from humbly speaking, probably from an employee and employer standpoint, there's probably 3 bubbles. First, there's the innate bubble of the fixed cost to deploy that talent to a respective location, either one time or ongoing, right? So base, bonus, COLA, equalization, we know the stuff, relo, immigration, da, 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 da. But then there's the extrinsic piece, to my dear colleague's point about what's the extrinsic talent, a creative value that's grown as a result of the assignment that is unquantifiable, if I may humbly submit. That is nebulous, but yet very, very important to recognize that it does exist. Both sides, employer is invested in said employee has received and acknowledged their value has grown internally and externally. And that's the part of the equation that's the most nebulous part. What I might submit is, again, the ability of supply and demand to demand or acknowledge the price point post-assignment of said employee, and you can do that. 2 is the ability for them to creditize themselves, i.e. the company continues to invest, to my dear colleague's suggestion, in order for them to stay. And if you don't continue the reinvestment, then therefore, obviously, the propensity is to potentially leave. But long-winded answer is to simply say there's the fixed cost and then there's the nebulous bit. And on top of that is this whole notion of a global labor market shortage at the top of the house. Supply and demand of the most senior echelon of executives, I would again humbly submit, is a very constrained, finite pool of talent, and it has a very high price point. So finding folks at the very top who have the ability on a dime to go anywhere, anytime, anyhow in the world, it's very few. We say there's a global talent pool, but the ability to deploy quickly and find talent that's really willing to do so, it's not a huge talent pool.
Measuring the value of the to the assignee, measuring the, so I'm an assignee.
Yeah.
What's my value? Value added. I'm picking up new skills, right? I'm getting paid. I have a package that's going to enable me to go to a nice restaurant in Lausanne, or go to a hip nightclub in Berlin, and get on up,
Bergheim in Berlin.
So how do you measure the value? So I'm an assignee. How can I put down in my resume that I've created value for the company, not just for me, and learning new skills and gaining the knowledge and the wherewithal to be an international person rather than a local? And who needs that talent now? And
So
how do I get paid
typically-
for it?
So typically most corporates, I've been in 7 huge companies, and in the OKRs, objective and key results like Google, for an assignee from country A to country B, in the commercial justification to deploy somebody, there's a business case, right? So there always is, we know that. This said employee, let's say Berlin to Singapore, you've got to requisitely transfer your wafer skills in, let's say, a chip lab in 18 months. That's a very specific objective. And that has a commercial ROI, like how quickly can you do that to a local, to then put yourself out of business because you do it more quickly than you were asked. There's a way to monetize that. 2 is that usually the cost of an assignee is 3x of the normal local national. The quicker you can transfer the skill, monetize how quickly that's done, and commercially what productivity was yielded by that person going there can also be monetized. And therefore, if the assignee, which is usually very astute, can say, my commercial value is this because I did this, therefore I can put that on my CV. I can say, I went to Singapore, I went to this lab, I deployed more quickly than asked. This was my ROI, this was my cost, and this is what the company yielded by my being in Singapore.
Will that, will I, as that employee, get paid for performance?
Theoretically, you should. So, as being the reward guy, not only the normal expat benefits, but I would transpose in that equation a completion bonus. So in some of my employers in, Philip Morris, we had a couple thousand, we had spent many billions of dollars, Swiss francs on the program. We had completion bonus. If you completed faster, we wanted you to deploy, and therefore there's skin in the game both sides. If you finish what you're attempting to do, we will give you a little carrot on the back end and say, come home early, or we'll give you another role. And a simple example, but good companies do that. Or we redeploy you to another location more quickly.
Would you hire me a coach so that I could grow incrementally in day to day by doing what's required better?
Well, you do it. I mean, assignments in effect are micro coaching interventions. Think about it this way. Each and every assignment that you invest in, that assignee incrementally acquires skills so quickly and so experientially, you don't need a coach because the assignment itself is your coach. I would submit, but my colleague, I'm talking too much, but see what my colleague
I talk too much too, but I'm thinking that, so the future with a high talent and a high price talent is to make sure that talent stays and
stays and sticks. I mean, that's
teaches the person who's coming behind him.
Yes, he or she.
Right. And that way you retain the talent, you build, like the Padres or got all this talent, home run talent. They've got the whole infield or shortstops now. So, but they need pitching.
The equation, expat's 3x of a local, right? The faster you can transfer your skill set, again, back to my case, Berlin to Singapore, to a local national in Sing dollars for a requisite same role, you should be able to monetize that. Some of the early transference goes back to you. So you get a little bit of a completion bonus, right? But most importantly is that you found your successor. A good job in an assignee is to always requisitely submit and access and deploy their successor, and then they move on.
Yeah, Pierre, this is sourcing talent from anywhere.
Correctly, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do agree with what Michael just said. It's really the goal, and how you value the experience towards a future employer, and it's also a requirement because people that these high-end talents, they really want to have a kind of experience. They want that because when I started in the industry, you would join an organization and they would tell you, all right, you're too young, and after 10 years, once you know the culture of the company, you will be sent abroad. Now people, they want it now, otherwise they would choose another employer who send them abroad within a shorter time frame. And the challenge for an organization is to build that culture. You know, it's not at the headquarters that you build the culture, it's wherever you are, wherever you're based. And today, for example, I spoke, you know, a few weeks ago with the HR director of a French startup. This company is recruiting 2,000 people per year. It's huge. They have amazing growth. But their policy is to recruit people wherever they want to be based. Meaning you as Ed, you say, okay, I want to join an organization. I want to be based in Paris. I want to be based in Madrid, or I want to be based in Taiwan. And basically the HR manager, the HR director has to find a way to employ you wherever you want to be and be compliant.
Maybe I can add to this one because I think there are maybe two objectives which you would like to fulfill. One is, you know, to get people on board to do business for you. And in this case, it doesn't matter, you know, where they are based. If people can work remote, then you hire them remotely, irrespectively where they are located. So, you know, for me, you know, the immigration business, for instance, I don't care whether this person is located in Berlin or whether this person is located in Madrid, as long as this person can work for us and we have internet, which we have everywhere. So then these people can work wherever they want to work. So even, you know, for instance, my son, he is currently traveling down to Bali for 3 months, working out of Bali. So there's a lot of mobility going on actually, and I really don't care where they are working, as long as they are contributing to the success of the company. This is the one dimension. The other thing is expats, which I need to grow my business. If I'm opening up, for instance, a new site on the Philippines for my company, which I've already done for Siemens, so then I wanted to have people I can trust, which I can send as a project team over to the Philippines to open up a site there. And then they work on a project for 1.5 or 2 years, as you mentioned, Michael. Then this is a different dimension. Then you need really high talents, which you can trust. You send them abroad, they work on a mission for 1 year or 2 or 3 years, and then they are going to come back. The challenge there is, in some cases, which I experienced, is when you send people to Asia, then they start to like the life there, because they get much more out of the package they have. They get big houses, maybe they get a car, maybe they get a driver, and so on. And when they move back to Munich, where housing is very, very expensive, they need to get back into small flats, which is also a challenge for them if they would like to come back to Germany. So these are also big challenges when you're doing expat management in this case.
Exactly.
So I think there are two areas. You know, one is sending talents abroad on a mission, on a project, or getting people for you wherever they want to work. What you mentioned early on, just to grow your business, and if they can work anywhere, so then you can hire them also anywhere.
Michael?
Yeah, I mean, building on your point, I was in Thailand, for example, on holiday for 13, 14 days. And what struck me was so interesting. So I was in Koh Samui 2 days ago, and they have this, what they call the Golden Visa working bar. So basically, in Thailand, as all 4 of us know, like several countries, you have post-COVID Golden Visa countries where it doesn't matter where you work. And I saw probably 10 different nationalities on laptops working with 10 different employers, sitting in a beach in Koh Samui doing their thing. Employer didn't care. They were happy. And they were next to a beach. Life was good. But most importantly, the employer knew they were getting, theoretically, good productivity, regardless of where they sat. And they weren't a traditional expat. They were a digital nomad. And that's okay. And I saw it right next to the pool, and I was like, this is cool.
Michael, you even get, in some countries, they introduced nomad visas.
Exactly. And we have take 20 at Flutter, so you can take 20, like Airbnb, they all do that. And now the question is, will we sponsor a golden visa? And I'm being asked that increasingly. And it's a good question. And my proclivity is to definitely consider it.
Work from anywhere, Pierre.
Yeah,
Golden
exactly.
visa.
Yes.
So on May 9, Michael is speaking at my first live meeting in 3 years. We're doing a meeting in London, and Pierre and Alexander, I'm going to send you the link so you can take a look. Tell me if you want to join in. It's a virtual as well as live, and our host is HSBC in their Cannery Wharf headquarters on the 34th floor. And it's attracting a lot of attention from around the world, mostly virtual. The number of people that are coming to be in the meeting room is actually small. So they have us in a small room that will hold about 50 people. And we'll be using Zoom to broadcast not all, but some of the sessions. And that'll be a hybrid. So people will be looking at the screen either like this or on their mobile. And then others will be in the room and they don't want to be seen on camera. So it's really quite interesting. And that's coming up May 9. So if you guys are interested, I'll get you that right away. So this has been a really cool discussion for me. It's so trending. Michael, you were just on with Brian Friedman's group, and he's tackling the same topic. And everybody's now doing it. I see other conference producers doing this exact topic because I think it's great that it's getting this publicity and this action and the dialogue, because I can remember just pre-COVID, people were afraid to talk about something controversial, and they just didn't want to be, poking their head up out of the ground because they're afraid they get slammed down. But not now. Are you agreeing, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I defer to my colleagues as well. The dystopically post-COVID and even during COVID, the way in which you communicate, engage, and participate in the employer-employee value proposition changed fundamentally. So you have to overexert yourself to some extent on Zoom because you just don't have those body cues, that body language, that sense of personalization. So you have to over-index, to your point. So therefore you have to rise above the fray. And like in Japan, there's a Japanese word where you're always being nailed down and the nail has come out metaphorically. And I noticed that on Zooms that people, when you see somebody on a Zoom, same person or in person, it's a different, somewhat slightly different person because they have to exhibit themselves differently because the audience and the channel is different.
Well, you have to learn how to be an actor. But without being flamboyant or crazy, is just expressing, just like I'm doing here. Now, I learned how to do this seat of the pants 3 years ago, almost exactly 3 years ago is when COVID hit and my live conference business went poop, wipe out. And so I learned how to be a happy TV talk show host, so, Pierre's been on probably 20 programs in that time frame, plus his own. And so I've gotten really comfortable looking at this green light and making believe that you're in the room right here at my dining room table, which is where I am, right here. But a lot of people are very uncomfortable and self-conscious, and more than half of our audience is female, and a lot of the people who are uncomfortable using Zoom are female, not so much guys.
Interesting.
I'm getting that feedback, yeah, and I'm sharing that with you and the world here. But I don't mean it negatively. It's just that media training is our new product, and the Global Press Club thing that I've set up, and teaching how to do this through repetitive appearances on our talk shows. And that's a whole driver, global PR, I'm calling it, getting people comfortable expressing themselves, whether it's wearing these things or not wearing that, and getting comfortable. And as you can see behind me, a stack of books that I've read, and this thing here, this is one of, self-help kind of thing, affirmatives, but it's so purposeful in reality when you work independently and isolated from other people, rather than being in an office mix. You have to keep thinking about what it is you can do, what is hard to do so you don't do it, and then how to solve the problem. Alexander, does this make sense to you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm thinking about your wind. I'm not sure whether this is the right way looking at it, because I think we have different ways of winds. In the meantime, when we talk about immigration relocation, then I think the whole world has changed since the pandemic, since COVID. People they would like to work anywhere in the meantime, and companies, they are forced to come up with ideas how to deliver this kind of service to their employees. And this is something which is also a challenge for companies, because you also have to think about what you mentioned earlier on, Michael, is not only a concern for yourself about taxation. It's also a concern of companies about taxation. They cannot let people work anywhere because sometimes you have to think about taxation in some countries. You cannot, for instance, as an example, if people are working out of Austria for more than 30 days, then the company in Germany or in other countries, they get taxed in Austria if people are working more than 30 days there. So that's why you have to also be careful of what you allow your employees, your workforce, to do in terms of mobility and what not. So you also have to come up with a set of rules in your company, what you can offer to your employees and what not. And this is also a big challenge. Also, companies are being forced at the moment to think about what kind of policies we can introduce for our workforce in terms of mobility.
Pierre? So Pierre, what are you going to be doing differently next week than you've been doing this past week?
I will say that we are going to accelerate on the pace of the changes we are offering to our clients. That's the idea. I mean, I think that we have had a very, very hectic beginning of the year. I think that it's very interesting. I met the EMEA Talent Acquisition Director of a pharmaceutical organization, and the person, we had a wonderful meeting and a very, very fruitful exchange. And the question is, who is your competitor? Who are your competitors? And we said, we have many competitors in different sectors where we are, intervening, but we don't have any competitor.
You don't have any?
We don't have a competitor offering the full scope of service that we're doing. So I think what we are going to do next week, Edwin, is to do it stronger than the past week, but nothing different. We keep on the same track.
Okay.
That's cool. That's very cool. So what I'm going to be doing next week is a couple of different things. I've got a variety of programs I'm producing, but the May 9th event is becoming a global phenomenon for me, and there's a lot of strength behind it because of the quality of people that have signed up to either sponsor or just show up virtually. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, our virtual component of May 9, even though the event is live, the virtual is huge. As opposed to the people who are going to traipse into, Canary Wharf, unless they're right in downtown London, they're not coming, but they are going to tune in for part of the hour or 2 hours. And so that's, I'm fortunate that I've mastered the ability to put this together, but I couldn't do it alone because I had HSBC's gravitas, of course, right there, but also leaders like Michael, who, Michael, you're famous out there. People want to be there because, even virtually, because you're going to be speaking on this topic.
Well, yeah, it's probably I've just been doing it too much. My dad taught me. So, but the conference room and the world, as we know, changed fundamentally in the last 3 years. So from VR, AR, like I'm going to World at Work in your neighborhood in San Diego in June, Ed, just around the block. So those massive events still get 2,000 or 3,000 people at the big San Diego Convention Center.
Yeah.
But when we get to the other ones like Brian's show or the Benevo thing I did yesterday, it's all, and people are really cool with Slido, polling, virtual rooms. And they really don't want to traipse on the tube in London because it's always on strike anyway. And they don't want to go to HSBC in Canary Wharf because their broadband is so good. And 3 years on, they're so comfortable. I mean, you've got Pierre, you have your Churchillian photos right behind you, which is the master communicator in the world. And I see Potsdamer Platz, I guess, in Berlin for you, Alex.
Yeah.
When you see people on a Zoom, you get to know them as a human being. You get to see the context in which they enrich their whole sense of ethos in the construct of where they're sitting. And that is a much more immersive experience to see the human being behind the camera than being in a conference room at Canary Wharf.
Yeah, which is so artificial.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it depends on the companies, because in banking, the bosses want the employees in the chairs.
Goldman Sachs and Chase and Microsoft and Apple, you got to come to the office. Seriously, 5 days a week? Seriously? And by the way, you're laying off all these people and you still want me to come to the office? Interesting. We're in the middle of hiring all the Meta and the Facebook and Amazon people that have been laid off, surprisingly. So Flutter there's incredible talent in the market. We're now grabbing it.
Isn't that interesting? Well, thanks for being on Global TV Talk Show. I'll get you this program link later in my day today. I'm about to make myself a breakfast and have another coffee. And I know for you guys it's over and happy hour. So
it's not over. We are going to have a cocktail in the office for the employees who are here, because some others are working remotely. And it's also the way to, as Alexander put it rightly, to create the ambience, the atmosphere, the culture in the company where people want to stay. And the apéro time is quite an interesting way, very basic, but still to create links and to make it a friendly environment where people, they like to be in the office and they like, because I think that's the idea. I visited a company yesterday. It was very interesting how the office was set up. It was a pharmaceutical company. It was the EMEA headquarters, and the center of the office was the kitchen for the employees.
Oh yeah, you mean with a big island, and pull up high chairs,
the kitchen, and that's the center of this Japanese pharmaceutical company, where before the kitchen was something like at the end of a corridor somewhere, back on the left side, something you will hide. And all the visitors, when they arrive to this company, this is the kitchen, the big table, nice environment,
a meeting place, a global meeting room. So with that in mind, are you going to have virtual attendees at that cocktail hour?
No. It's going to be for those who are in the office, but we are going to do several cocktails during the week, depending on who is attending. So the risk for me is to become an alcoholic. But apart from that, a good manager, but an alcoholic.
That's funny. So
That's
Alexander, thank you. I look forward to being in Berlin again. It could be in September.
Would be wonderful to invite you for dinner.
Yeah, well, oh, please. Be
And-
my honor, really. So one of my top sponsors in the London event, May 9, is Andrew Elliman, who's a European business development leader for AGS, a big moving company, a big relocation company. And so he's asked me to consider coming back into Europe in September and do another London, but also Germany, Brussels, Switzerland.
You should definitely. Definitely.
And Amsterdam as well. So I thought originally Hamburg might be a good place, but I really believe it will be Berlin as a focal point for our meeting. But I'll let you know. I would love to visit anyway, even if it's not. So thank you, Michael. I'll see you on TV in a month or so. And so if you guys would like to invite any corporates, contacts to join us on May 9, it's complimentary for corporates. Everyone else has to pay. but I want to get as many corporate participations as possible from around the world, not just in Canary Wharf.
Ed, if you can give me some details about it.
I will. And I welcome any question. Thanks very much again. I feel honored to have this relationship. This is great.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Ed. And thank you, Michael and Alexander. It was great to
Thank you.
have this
Thank you.
opportunity to chat. And
Thanks, Marcus.
fantastic. And
Thank
thank
you.
you, Ed, for
Anytime.
organizing.
Just
This is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely weekend.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Simon.
Thank you. Stay safe.